Charlie Kirk's name exploded across headlines the night he was found unconscious in his locked studio, a 3-minute camera blackout and a trail of impossible clues igniting a mystery that still refuses to die. The night Charlie Kirk collapsed began like any other. He was alone in his private studio, preparing for a late broadcast that would stream to millions of followers. Security footage showed him entering the building at 10:41 p.m. carrying a coffee and a thick folder of notes. Everything appeared normal until 11:12, when the main security camera positioned directly outside the studio door suddenly stopped recording. The blackout lasted exactly 3 minutes. At 11:15, the feed returned as if nothing had happened. Technicians later claimed a routine power surge caused the interruption, but skeptics quickly pointed out that every other camera and piece of equipment in the building remained fully operational during the supposed surge. Only the camera facing Charlie's studio was affected, a detail too precise to dismiss as coincidence. When maintenance crews examined the system the next morning, they discovered that the camera's internal memory card had been removed and replaced with an empty one. Even stranger, the missing card turned up 2 days later in a city park across town, inside a plastic sandwich bag that had been carefully sealed to protect it from the rain. Forensic teams found no fingerprints, no fibers, and no signs of tampering. The card itself was wiped so clean that not even advanced data recovery tools could retrieve a single frame. Investigators admitted privately that the erasure looked deliberate, almost professional, as if someone with intimate technical knowledge had planned the operation well in advance. Adding to the unease was the testimony of a night security guard who reported seeing a man in a plain maintenance uniform wandering the hallway outside the studio shortly before the blackout. The guard described him as average height, wearing a company badge that looked legitimate at first glance but lacked the usual holographic strip. When approached, the man calmly said he was checking an air conditioning unit and disappeared around a corner. Later reviews of building logs revealed no record of any maintenance visits scheduled for that night, and no employee matching the guard's description worked for the company. Some online researchers later discovered that the badge design the guard described was outdated by nearly 5 years, raising questions about where the intruder obtained it. Further complicating matters was the discovery of faint scuff marks on the door frame of the studio, suggesting that someone had attempted to force the door open despite the heavy electronic lock. The marks were small, almost invisible unless viewed in the right light, but they indicated that a tool had been used with surprising precision. No alarms were triggered, and the door itself showed no obvious damage, which meant whoever attempted entry likely possessed insider knowledge of the locking mechanism. This detail fueled speculation that the mysterious figure in the maintenance uniform may have gained entry during the blackout, possibly to tamper with Charlie's equipment or leave behind something undetectable. The vanishing camera theory grew rapidly online as these fragments of evidence spread across forums and social media. Each clue, the perfectly timed blackout, the missing memory card, the untraceable intruder, and the silent electronic door painted a picture far more unsettling than a simple technical malfunction. For many observers, the 3-minute gap in footage was not just a glitch but a calculated window of opportunity, a silent invitation for someone to step in and carry out a plan that remains unsolved to this day. Charlie Kirk's rapid rise as a fiery media personality earned him both admiration and resentment, and the rival theory traces its roots to a bitter feud that once dominated late-night political chatter. Years earlier, Charlie had engaged in a heated on-air debate with another commentator whose career faltered soon after. The rival, known for sharp wit and aggressive style, suffered a sudden ratings collapse following their confrontation, and industry insiders whispered that the humiliation left scars deeper than anyone realized. Publicly, the rival retreated from the spotlight, announcing a quiet break from broadcasting, but private emails leaked months later suggested an obsessive fixation on Charlie's growing influence. Screenshots of private group messages surfaced on obscure forums containing cryptic phrases like "the reckoning is near" and "he won't speak past spring," fueling suspicion that resentment had hardened into something darker. Internet investigators combed through old episodes, podcasts, and social media posts to piece together a timeline of their feud. They discovered a trail of deleted tweets and half-finished blog posts filled with veiled threats and coded language. Some posts even referenced the layout of Charlie's studio building, including details about the placement of security cameras and emergency exits. Although no direct evidence tied the rival to the night of Charlie's collapse, the coincidence of these details being shared weeks before the incident struck many as chilling. When questioned by reporters, the rival dismissed the speculation as conspiracy fiction but refused to explain how such specific information about the studio had been obtained. Investigators took the threats seriously enough to quietly interview former employees from both media networks. Several admitted off record that the rivalry had been more personal than professional. One former producer recalled tense backstage encounters during industry events, describing moments when the rival lingered near Charlie's team with an unsettling stare. Another employee claimed to have overheard conversations about taking back the microphone, though the context remained unclear. These testimonies, while circumstantial, added weight to the idea that jealousy and lingering humiliation could motivate a calculated act of sabotage. Adding intrigue was the discovery of a hidden forum thread that appeared weeks before the incident. Posted under an anonymous username, the thread contained a countdown clock and a series of riddles referencing silence, microphones, and the number 3. Some amateur code breakers believe the number referred to the 3-minute blackout of the studio camera, suggesting foreknowledge of the technical failure. Digital forensics traced the IP address to a network of proxy servers used to conceal locations, making it nearly impossible to identify the poster. Nevertheless, a handful of phrases in the messages matched writing patterns from the rival's old blog, including unusual punctuation habits and rare word choices. Despite public denials and a lack of physical evidence, the theory continues to attract attention because of the psychological tension it represents. A disgraced rival, armed with insider knowledge and a motive steeped in envy, fits the narrative of a calculated attempt to silence a rising star. Whether coincidence or hidden orchestration, the unanswered questions surrounding the rival's movements, the mysterious forum posts, and the chilling predictions keep this theory alive in the minds of those convinced that professional jealousy can turn into something far more dangerous. Weeks before Charlie Kirk's unexplained collapse, an unsettling pattern of fan mail began to surface. At first, the letters seemed harmless, arriving in thick cream-colored envelopes without a return address. They were neatly handwritten in black ink, the penmanship elegant and deliberate, almost old-fashioned. Early notes offered nothing more than praise for Charlie's broadcasts, complimenting his ability to cut through the noise and urging him to keep speaking the truth. But as the weeks passed, the tone shifted from flattering to eerie. Each new letter contained a short riddle or cryptic message about silence, endings, and the fragility of time. Some referenced obscure poems about clocks stopping at midnight or birds that fall silent before a storm. None included a name, signature, or any identifying marks beyond a faint scent of cedar that lingered on the paper. Investigators later confirmed that the letters were postmarked from different cities across the country with no discernible pattern. One week a letter came from a small town in Oregon, the next from a suburb in Florida, and then from a rural post office in Montana. This irregular trail suggested either a single sender traveling constantly or a network of people working together to maintain the mystery. Postal workers interviewed by authorities recalled nothing unusual beyond the distinctive cedar smell, which was strong enough that several described it even without prompting. Some amateur sleuths speculated that the scent might have been an intentional signature or a way to taunt investigators by leaving a clue that meant nothing and everything at once. The final letter arrived on the very morning Charlie was discovered unconscious. Unlike the others, this envelope was marked with a single red dot on the back flap, a detail so subtle it might have gone unnoticed if not for the forensic team's careful inspection. Inside was a single sheet of heavy parchment bearing only a drawing of a clock. The clock's hands were frozen at 11:57, the precise minute Charlie's studio camera flickered and he collapsed. No words accompanied the drawing. The silence of the page spoke louder than any riddle that came before it. Analysts determined that the ink used in the drawing contained an uncommon blend of pigments typically found in high-end art supplies, but no fingerprints, fibers, or DNA were recovered despite advanced testing. What troubled investigators most was the precision of the timing. Postal records confirmed that the letter had been mailed 3 days earlier from a city hundreds of miles away, yet it reached the studio just hours before the incident. Experts noted that such accurate delivery would require intimate knowledge of postal logistics or an unlikely streak of luck. Digital forensics teams attempted to trace security footage from the various post offices involved, but cameras either malfunctioned during key drop-offs or captured only grainy silhouettes that defied identification. For many following the case, the Phantom fan represented not only a dangerous obsession but also a chilling demonstration of control. The cedar-scented letters, the clock frozen in time, and the sender's ability to stay invisible suggested a stalker who operated with patience, intelligence, and a plan that unfolded with unnerving precision. Among the most unsettling theories surrounding the night Charlie Kirk collapsed is the idea that he was the target of a covert government experiment. Supporters of this theory point to a string of unusual events in the weeks leading up to his hospitalization, starting with the unexplained appearance of an unmarked white van repeatedly seen outside the studio after midnight. Neighbors reported the vehicle lingering in the same spot on multiple nights, engine running but lights off, with figures moving inside only when the street was empty. Attempts to track the van through nearby traffic cameras turned up nothing, as if the vehicle never officially existed. Local police records showed no patrol logs or citations, even though the area was heavily monitored. To conspiracy watchers, this was the first sign of something orchestrated and deeply hidden. The theory gained traction when it emerged that Charlie had been preparing a segment about new surveillance technologies and their potential misuse by government contractors. Sources close to his production team revealed that he had obtained leaked documents describing experimental sound-based devices capable of disrupting neural activity from a distance. These devices, rumored to be in early testing by private security firms, were said to leave no physical trace while causing sudden dizziness, unconsciousness, or memory gaps. Although no mainstream outlet confirmed the authenticity of these documents, the timing of his planned broadcast only days after he received them seemed suspicious when paired with the sudden incident. Adding to the mystery was the studio's electrical data from the night of the collapse. Engineers analyzing the power logs discovered a short burst of electromagnetic interference recorded at precisely 11:12 p.m., the same minute the main security camera blacked out. The interference did not match any known equipment in the building and lasted for exactly 3 minutes. Technicians described it as a pulse event, an anomaly that could disrupt electronics within a limited range. While skeptics argued it might have been caused by nearby construction or passing radio signals, believers pointed to the precision of the timing as evidence of a deliberate strike. Witness reports further fueled speculation. A delivery driver parked across the street claimed to have heard a faint, high-pitched sound moments before the blackout, describing it as a metallic hum that made his ears ring. Another passerby reported seeing a thin beam of bluish light flicker across the studio's rooftop, though no physical equipment was later found. Both accounts were dismissed by investigators as unreliable, yet they circulated widely online, reinforcing the image of a high-tech assault invisible to ordinary detection. Perhaps the most chilling detail came from a whistleblower claiming to have worked for a private defense contractor. Posting anonymously on a secure forum, this individual claimed that prototypes of a directional acoustic device nicknamed the Hush Cannon were undergoing live urban trials at the time. The whistleblower refused to provide proof but described symptoms eerily similar to what Charlie experienced. Whether these claims are elaborate fiction or fragments of a hidden reality remains unknown, but for many observers, the combination of the electromagnetic pulse, and the suppressed broadcast draft form a narrative that feels too coordinated to dismiss as coincidence. The final theory surrounding Charlie Kirk's collapse turns the entire mystery on its head by suggesting that he staged the event himself. While every other explanation points to an outside threat, this perspective imagines Charlie as the architect of his own disappearance, driven by exhaustion, ambition, or a desire for total reinvention. Supporters of this theory highlight a string of subtle clues that began months before the incident, starting with his sudden decision to cancel several high-profile speaking engagements under the vague excuse of creative restructuring. Insiders later revealed that he had been quietly liquidating certain business assets and moving funds into private trusts, steps that seemed oddly calculated for someone who publicly claimed to be expanding his media empire. In the weeks leading up to the night in question, Charlie's behavior reportedly shifted in small but noticeable ways. Staff members described him as unusually restless, staying late in the studio long after taping had finished and spending hours alone behind locked doors. Some recalled that he began carrying a small leather notebook everywhere he went, writing furiously between meetings and guarding its contents with near-paranoid secrecy. When investigators later searched the studio, the notebook was nowhere to be found, and Charlie refused to discuss its existence. To those who believe in the self-staged theory, this missing artifact represents a blueprint for the entire operation, a written plan for an escape hidden in plain sight. Another point of intrigue is the perfectly timed release of his memoir only months after the incident. Announced during his year-long sabbatical, the book debuted with a polished marketing campaign that capitalized on public fascination with his mysterious collapse. The memoir offered dramatic reflections on fame, pressure, and the cost of living in the public eye, but conspicuously avoided any direct explanation of what happened that night. Observers noted that key passages hinted at themes of rebirth and controlled chaos, with phrases like "sometimes you must stop the clock to start again" echoing eerily similar messages found in the cedar-scented fan letters. Critics argue that such poetic parallels are to need to be accidental, suggesting Charlie may have used the incident as a stage for his own transformation. Financial records uncovered by investigative journalists deepened the suspicion. During the months following his collapse, a shell company registered under an obscure name purchased multiple properties in remote locations, each equipped with advanced security systems and private communication networks. While Charlie publicly claimed to be resting and recovering, contractors quietly outfitted these properties with recording studios, safe rooms, and satellite connections. None of the purchases were linked to him directly, but subtle overlaps in transaction dates and known travel schedules painted a pattern difficult to ignore. For those convinced of this theory, the 3-minute blackout, the missing camera card, and even the mysterious letters were not threats but carefully planted props. Instead of a victim, Charlie emerges as a strategist orchestrating his own vanishing act to escape relentless scrutiny and reinvent his career on his own terms. Whether it was a calculated marketing masterpiece or a deeply personal bid for freedom, the possibility that every shocking detail was part of a deliberate plan remains one of the most tantalizing aspects of the entire mystery, leaving even skeptics uneasy about how much control he may have truly held over that fateful night.